You're now live.
Okay, we are live. Cool. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Final Click Marketing Show. I'm Ronnie Soud.
I'm Casey Main.
And we are switching up a little bit today. Normally, Dana is on the show. We have Casey. Casey works for us here at Soud Marketing. She helps with social media and content. And I'm going to let her intro herself a little bit because Casey brings a lot of really good skills to us here.
Oh, that's a nice tee up. So I work here part-time, mostly in like content development and a lot of social media. But I have a side hustle, which is I'm a freelance writer and I host a podcast. So I am very used to interviewing people. So today we are switching up the format a little bit, and I'm going to be interviewing Ronnie and just basically pulling all of the knowledge that he has in his head for all of you guys. That is the goal, at least for today.
And she said she had a podcast, and so that is part of today's topic, which is personal branding and how to put a face to your business or company. And that comes in many different forms. And so we are going to be talking about all of those, how to do it, strategy behind it, and also talking about the various business models that are associated with personal branding too. So just wanted to let you guys know we are filming live using StreamYard. And so if you're on YouTube or Facebook, we're on StreamYard. If you're on Instagram, you guys are over there. We have my mobile phone over there. So if you see us switching back and forth, it's not odd. Going live, we're all still learning. So this is how we're doing it.
We're so techie. This is the techiest I've ever been with all this happening.
It's pretty. We have stuff hanging off chairs. It's really bobo, but we're doing it. So
we're doing it exactly, which is practicing what the firm preaches, is to go live.
Go live. Do it often. Don't sweat the details. It's more important to do it, get it done, get your message out there than if it's perfect. So
yes.
So with that being said, we're going to talk personal branding.
Yes.
And Casey is used to being a host. She informed me she likes to be in control. So I'm going to let her be in control.
I just said
today.
I'm used to being in charge.
In charge for today.
Yes. So I'm used to running the conversation. So we're talking about personal branding, which is really kind of a newer term, which I feel like has kind of come with this whole social media and influencer and all of that. But the concept has been around for a long time because it's just historically been like a company spokesperson, right?
Right. And that I think has come in many different forms. Some of the initial ones that I think about here locally, we all know them. There's a couple big PI attorneys here that, both have their name in their business title, right? As well as they are the face that we consistently see in TV ads and social media and all that kind of stuff. But really this started way back. I know some of the guys that I follow big. So some of the ad agency icons, I think, were some of the ones that sort of pioneered this. So people like David Ogilvy, who started Ogilvy and Mather, which still stands today, but he's no longer around, as well as Leo Burnett, which, that was a personal brand as well. But they grew up into, huge, big advertising conglomerates, right? So I think we see, the rise of giving a face to your business into being a personal brand. It can come in all different shapes and sizes.
Right.
And with the rise of the internet, we're now seeing not just the rise of having a spokesperson for a business, which is still a great strategy to have, but we're also seeing single individuals become personal brands and building businesses around themselves.
Right. So like, why is this so important for businesses to have a face? Is it a matter of kind of letting your customers have a little bit more of that like personal relationship feel? Is it like a consistency thing? Like, this has been a concept around for a while, so clearly it has value, but like, why?
I think it's both of those. I think there's a lot of advantages to it, right? And so some is recognizability, which I think we looked to see if that was an actual word yesterday.
It is.
All right,
at least according to Google.
All right. So I think recognizability, right? You're always going to be around. And, a lot of times that's what people sort of cling to. It's also very unique, right? Because no one else is you. You started this business, this company, you have a passion for it. you have, the artistic mind and process on how to execute the product and the service best. And so it has, to me, a lot of those advantages, right? Where you'll always be recognized for doing this thing. And then people can watch you and your company sort of personally grow as you start out and document that whole process of getting started and hitting milestones and growing as a business and a company. What I think is cool is that the internet has brought it out in many different shapes and sizes today. And so this is something that you experience yourself with your podcast, that wasn't available 20 years ago, right? For instance, car dealerships and home service businesses, they were able to name them after themselves, right? We see that here locally, like with Beaver Toyota, as well as, a lot of AC companies. I worked with a client, Donovan Heating and Air, for a long time. That's their last name. And so they've been able to carry that name generationally, which is great, from a local business perspective. There's also sort of this other thing that is much newer, which is the rise of single entity businesses that take on, we're a personal brand here. Soud Marketing is named after me.
It's
right.
a personal brand.
Yeah. Right. So I think that is what technology and the internet, that's part of what makes it so cool and what makes getting started for people so easy, because we are unique and our uniqueness gets to come out in our business like that. And therefore, I think a lot more people get to start businesses because of that.
Right. And I think that's what's so different now than what used to be. So like back in the days of, like the car dealership and stuff, it's not like they could post a picture of what coffee mug they were drinking out of the coffee this morning. And so it's like that level of kind of glimpses into someone's life,
right? I
think builds that relationship, which it probably goes hand in hand with like the younger generations that have grown up on social media. Like they care, like they want to know that they feel like they want to feel like they know a company, not just some like large faceless organization, especially like the millennials, I feel like. Right.
I think you're a good person to ask about this, too, because you have a podcast and you've connected. So have you connected with people all over the US or all over the world?
Mostly the US. I have had a couple international guests, and I do get some international listens. So, yeah.
Right. But those are your thoughts, right?
Right.
And no one else can run that podcast like you.
I hope not.
Well, no. There's other people that are doing a good job, right? But you're you. And so you have listeners that gravitate to you. That creates your audience, and that's what creates your business, right?
Right.
And so I think that's what's so powerful about it.
I agree. It is that relationship, that loyalty thing, which we've talked about in here. We've talked about in terms of, the different group fitness that they've got staff. And while it's not necessarily personal training, the people who attend feel that loyalty to those individuals. So it like builds that relationship, which is then like a stickiness factor, like for your customers.
Right. I think a good way, if you're a business, or a personal brand, a good way to think about this is that, you might start out small, but you start out with a philosophy, right? Of how you're either going to create content, or you're going to perform your service, or you're going to build your product. And then that, personalization that came from you then bleeds out into the business or company as it grows. So for you, as your audience grows, your style, it might change a little bit over time as you refine it, but you're still you,
right?
And your audience still gravitates to you because they like the way you talk, they like the topics that you cover, so on and so forth.
Right. And a podcast is kind of a unique entity from a business perspective, but would you say that it's important for all types of businesses to have that spokesperson, like that face of the company that is the recognizability and then like building the relationship? Or are there businesses where it doesn't matter as much?
No, there are some to where it doesn't matter as much. And I think it depends upon the person who's starting it, right? I think, some are faceless businesses that do phenomenal, right? They're big corporations and all that. But that's what I think what makes this tactic really unique is that if you are willing to be the face, then it comes with sort of built-in uniqueness within the market that you're trying to serve. So us as marketers, we're always trying to extract out what makes this particular business unique, right? And so it's always easier, or it tends to be easier, when you work in a business that is willing to have a personal face attached to it, not one that you pay for by, having talent do voiceover and, TV actors and things, but where the actual owner, the CEO, or, some of the higher up staff actually participate in the outbound messaging and advertising and marketing efforts that go with that. If that is your company vibe, for lack of a better term, then I think it's phenomenal, because it's something that is really hard to copy.
Right, because of that uniqueness to the individual. And I think that's especially important here in Jacksonville, because we're like a big city, but we hold on to that small town feel. Like it's a lot of, like you feel like people and kind of who and all that. So I think that especially in this market, even though you could think, okay, well, we're a big market. Yes, we are, but we're still like that, small town.
Exactly. Yeah. For local businesses, I think that it's a really great tactic. The one thing that I think hangs some people up is that they think they can't sell their business if they're the face and they're the name. I can tell you from experience that is not true, because a few clients of mine have been sold where their name, their last name, is the actual business name, and they are, somewhat the face of the business too. They were still actually able to sell those and actually work out a pretty sweet deal, to where they're still helping to manage that long term as well. So, that's only the one hang up that I hear from people who are getting started, is, will this pigeonhole me for a potential sale later? And I haven't seen that be the case, right? Because typically when someone wants to buy you, they want your customer base or they want your technology. So how can a business decide, let's say they don't really have a company spokesman now. It's just not really part of their strategy. How do they decide if that's something they even could benefit from? Like, what does that analysis look like? I don't know if it's analysis as much as, like, sometimes we just walk in and it's just something they haven't thought of yet. And as we get started in the discovery phase with clients, we notice that, the secret sauce is actually these people or this person, who started it. And so they might not have initially thought of doing that, right? And it's something that we, almost always bring up, because it locally, especially too, it gives that personalization within your marketing and advertising, which is so potent, right? And it makes it extremely memorable too.
Right. And then that consistent factor too,
exactly.
Right. Which is, I feel like it's got to be hard at this point in time to come up with a really eye-catching logo or tagline, because there's just so much out there. So, but every face, every person
right.
is unique.
Right. That's true. And so many things have already been done, in terms of ideas, that is where, I feel like some of the uniqueness factor does come into play. That's one of the tactics that we're using here, is that I sort of, swallowed the pill and said, I'm willing to put my face, whether you guys like it or not. Sorry. So who knows if that's a good idea, but it's been successful so far, right? So, I'm willing to put myself out there in a variety of capacities with, lives and video trainings and, display ads and such, to sort of brand us as being unique. And, I don't think that's a tactic that's used widely amongst my industry locally here. So that was one of my decision makers in doing that.
Okay. Do you think it always needs to be like the top of the company, like the head, the owner, the founder, or could it be anyone?
It could be anyone. And we've seen, so one, you have to think long-term. So you have to make sure that whoever you're using, and if it's you, if you're the owner, great, that's easy. But if you're using other people on your team, you have to make sure that they have a vested interest and that they're going to be sticking around for a good while. So that's where, things like becoming shareholders in certain firms, in agencies and companies becomes important. If any of those VPs and other decision makers, C-suite level staff are going to be helping with that, then it's important that they're not just going to be bolting and going to the next job in like 2 or 3 years.
Right. Okay, so this is kind of an off the wall question, but I don't know why I just thought of this.
Okay.
Does it have to be an actual person? Because like Mr. Clean is a cartoon,
right. Mm-hmm.
Or I feel like, and I can't think of one off the top of my head, but people have used like pets, like where animals are like the face of the company.
That's right. Yeah. There's pest control that uses a dog, Brandon. I know Snyder Heating and Air has Snyder Man. And so that's like, because no one else has, Snyder Man or a red superhero, here in North Florida. Also the dog, I'm sure that there's more than one dog, but they name, the company after the initial dog, Brandon. And so, those are things, those are other unique factors, but that is still, along the lines of giving a face to your company.
Right. There's still that connection point.
Right. And so, I think for local businesses like that, and for companies that operate regionally and nationally, that can be pulled off for sure. And it still helps with that uniqueness factor.
Right. Okay. So, all right. So a company decides, okay, we're going to have a face, and it's going to be either this live person or this cartoon person or whatever. Then how do they start to use that in digital marketing? Like how can digital marketing help actually make that person the face of the company? Because you can name a face of your company or a spokesperson, but like if no one's seeing them,
right,
you're not getting the recognizability, you're not getting the consistency. So how do you then create the actual personal brand around it?
Sure. Well, and that's where we got to take everything into action mode, right? So today, marketing and advertising, I think, is more important than ever. And digitally is how we all primarily communicate today, right? And so we've seen, I think that's why personal branding and face of the company has seen such a big rise, is because we've gotten away from our standardized TV, radio, newspaper, magazine, communication media, and are going to more personalized media, right? So things like social media, Google, websites, blogs, so on and so forth. And so those things, what we visit and what we watch most, is more personalized and customized to us, each individual. And so I think that fits in perfectly with when you want to jump off and start building yourself online as a brand. It does take action, it does take effort. Primarily today, I would say that requires video. And if you want to go live, I think that's optional, if you're comfortable with that. But I think if you're deciding to be the face of your business, or you're building a personal brand, it comes with an understanding that you do have to be out in the social community.
Put your face out there.
Right. Yeah. You have to put your face out there. You have to do video.
Especially now, because there isn't, there aren't events and networking events and conferences and all of that. So people can only see your face for the most part through their screens.
Exactly. And so I think that is one thing, that's a pill that you have to be willing to swallow. And those that are swallowing it, I can tell you, are profiting from it massively. We've seen a big rise of this since COVID-19, because networking events, trade shows, even chamber, city chamber events, those are not going on anymore. And so what people are having to turn to is video. And if you don't have a face to make those videos within your company, that has been, I think, a bit of a problem, right? Because now what a lot of people and what we're seeing a lot of our clients do is they are going live, right? And this is everyone from doctors, financial advisors, home service professionals too. They are going live, and it is primarily the owners, but that recognizability factor, they're seeing it and they're feeling it. And so that has been a very encouraging, metric for us, because I always encourage people to do that.
Well, and I think I know from my own personal experience, especially on social media, especially I think on Instagram, because Instagram is a lot of photos. What I found, and looking through people's stories, what gets the most traction is a person, is a photo of a face, not a stock image, not, just a great quote. Like, people want to see other people. And especially like when you go through people's stories, like I'll just click through if they're just sharing posts or whatever. But the minute it gets to like them and what they're doing, it's, I don't know, it's kind of weird, but it's like, oh, well, like what's that person up to? Like, you just care about that human element more. You do.
And, with that too, I think that you have to create great content to go with the fact that your face is putting that content out there too, right? And so, I would give a little more care to the images that you're actually posting, right? Think through, have a schedule. I would do the same thing with video too. And, you as the company spokesperson, try and be as helpful as possible, right? Give a lot of goodwill in these videos that we're all doing, as it pertains to what you offer, and try and really help your target market, overcome some of their problems, the problems that you solve, of course. So.
Right. Okay. So that's a good segue. Let's kind of switch into content stuff, or just how the personal brand or the face of the company fits into.
You know what? Let's ask, because you do this yourself. So in your own stats, do you notice if there's a difference? Like on your social media stats, you might be sharing someone else's article, and then after that, you might be sharing a photo of yourself doing something with a important caption.
Yes. So yes, I've noticed photos of myself get much more engagement than anything else. And I've also noticed when I'm consistent about doing stories, and it's been a hard pill for me to swallow, which shouldn't be the case, because that is my side hustle. And if you're going to have a podcast, like no one can be the face but me, obviously.
Right.
But like, I'm not real comfortable. Like with podcasting, you're behind a mic and there's no screen. So like, this is a different comfort level for me. I'm not like a selfie person or whatever. So, but I've tried to kind of get over that, because I know that gets more engagement. People want to see like the behind the scenes. So I've definitely noticed, it sounds so like just weird to say, but yeah, like people want to see my face.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I'm not a big share up on social media other than the videos that I do. I really lag behind, personally, in sharing things with my family, what we're doing. We'll be on vacation. You won't even know that I'm gone. Like, I don't share much, personal information like that. But I do love flipping the camera on and going live with all of y'all and sharing marketing knowledge. This style fits for me, though. So, if I'm a company spokesperson or turning into a personal brand, whatever that might look like in the future, I didn't really have to swallow a pill. I was excited about it because I love talking marketing and business. So to me, this is the favorite part of my week, is every Friday at 10 when we get to flip this on and go live, and talk marketing, advertising, and business, because I love it.
Well, and so maybe that's a helpful question for companies to decide who would be their best faces, like who loves talking about the business,
right?
Like who gets excited about it, and who would, maybe they'll be a little bit uncomfortable at first, but at least like in one-on-one conversations, they're like, yeah, like we're going to, I'm just jazzed to tell you about like what the business is doing. That person, because of that like excitement level and willingness to talk about it, could be a good option.
Exactly.
Okay.
Too, the other thing I would say is I wouldn't say that I'm an extrovert, right? So I don't know if I would
say that, but like I don't feel like you're introverted.
I think I used to be a big people person. Now, like, I'm not as much.
Well, me too. I used to be super social, and now I very rarely leave my house. This is a big day. Wash my hair, put on makeup.
Where I was going with that is, if you need to weed through and find people to kind of help and shoulder that, I don't necessarily think that they have to be extroverts to do this, right? Because I love talking about my lane and sharing about my lane, but I don't share about a lot of the other stuff that I do in my life. So, I would say that, you need to find someone who's passionate about the business or what they're doing. And if that's you, the owner, that's great. If it's someone else who can help you with that, then, I think that's the cherry on the cake. So.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about how people or how businesses should be using this tactic. Cause like, I know like that I don't do it correctly for myself and for my podcast. Like I know I don't, it's just something, it's always like, okay, I'm going to start doing that more. And I don't.
Well, what don't you do correctly?
Like, I don't go live. I'm not doing videos. Like I'm not doing what I should be doing. I know that, but let's talk about like what people should be doing, because I imagine this is a big part of the discovery phase of kind of that marketing because of that recognizability and the face. So like how do people get started with that? Let's say I've chosen my face of the company. Now what do I do with that person?
Okay, then you need to go into creating content is what would be my suggestion, right? I wouldn't go into start putting them into ads first, like billboards or print and commercials. I would first start with content creation that we're going to distribute and share out on social media. Okay. That's a great way to sort of dip your toe in the water and test and see if the audience in the market even responds to that, right? You might need to change the format up a few times. We do that here. Casey has come on and really helped us refine our format a lot, and is going to be doing so in the future as well. So social is a great testing ground. And then 2, you need to test, okay, what type of content do we need to be creating and sharing? The big thing is that you need to be helpful, okay? It should not be all me about the company and business. Your customers don't care about you, they care about themselves, right? And so they're trying to solve some kind of a problem, and they want to know if you can help them solve that. And today, there is a certain amount of goodwill that you need to put into the market before you can get something out of the market. And so that is by sharing helpful tips, advice. If you can go deeper than that's great. But it is about sharing helpful content per your specialty for your target location, demographic, market, what have you. And that's where I would start. Really low barrier to entry too. Okay.
So like organic posting on social, or should people start to test with maybe some social media ads where you can kind of do that A/B testing to figure out, all right, what ad is performing better, the one with our company spokesperson or the one that is just more like copy or like a stock image?
That's a good idea, but I wouldn't start there.
Okay.
I would do that maybe a couple weeks or months down the line. Reason being is I think that you want to get your tone and your cadence down first. Do that organically, okay? And see, utilizing the organic post, see what people gravitate to most, right? Once you get that down, okay, come up with more versions of that. And then start bringing in ads and start running those. The ads are really going to help you expand your reach. That's a guarantee. But if the people who don't follow you, if the people who already follow you don't like what you're saying, that needs to be refined, right? Because then it's going to be even harder to get people who don't follow you to migrate to you.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So use organic posts to sort of refine everything. And then when you feel like you're sitting in a good spot, then bring the ads on to expand reach and begin testing.
And then that's where that gives you that targeting component.
Right.
And so how does like having a face of the company help with that? Or even how does knowing who your target market is help with deciding who your face of the company is? Like, does it need to be somebody that I'm gonna assume, yes, it needs to be somebody that like was gonna gel with your type of customers? Because then you'll use that targeting component to put them in front of more of those type of people. Is that right?
I would say yes and no, and it depends on, you know, how much of a commodity is what you're offering, right?
Okay.
And so, you know, if you're selling, you know, a real commoditized product or service, then you might want someone who can cater more to an everyman. But if you're not, then who you're putting out there should be attracting the niche market that you want to bring in.
Okay.
And that's something that is on a case-by-case basis too. So, you know, I would definitely take that into consideration, right? If you need 1 million sales, then you have to have messaging and, you know, sort of a brand face strategy that will get you in front of enough people to actually close, you know, 1 million sales.
Okay, so we have a comment, which I won't read the whole thing, but the gist of it is that, so this is someone with a restaurant, which is often mistaken as a big chain restaurant. And she's been saying for years that having a company spokesperson will help kind of get that message out there that it is like a family-owned small business, which I think, again, is like very helpful for the younger generation, but then also here in Jacksonville.
Right. I mean, it was a comment, but the comment was dead on. So that is, I think that's some, in that particular industry there, I think that is one thing that people do need to tackle. And if they're willing to embrace that, you know, then I would say definitely put them out there. Right. I fight this with another client. It's not a fight, but, you know, we go back and forth for like 10 years now. They're a local retail store, but they will not put their faces out there. And so they're competing head to head against a national chain, a couple different national chains. You know, and a big differentiating factor for them would be that personalization, but we don't utilize that. And I think it puts a little bit of an, in terms of a strategy, I think it puts a little bit too much of an unnecessary strain on the marketing and advertising efforts. Okay.
What do you think their hesitation is? Like, what are people afraid of? Or do they think it just won't work? Or it's a hesitation to actually be out in the public eye in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, I think it's just a hesitation to be out in the public eye like that. It's something that they're not used to much, you know, but as we're seeing generationally, I mean, now we're all out almost in the public eye, right? Yeah. We all have our own profiles and all that. So I'm thinking that as the younger generation creates more businesses, I'm thinking that won't be as much of an issue. We see this a lot with the changing of the guard, where you have the previous generation, who is starting to retire or whatnot, and we're needing to take on a different strategy for the next generation. We're seeing that a lot. And I mean, this is a really strong, powerful, popular tactic. If you're local too, I think it's powerful to say, and I think it's powerful to watch the documentation of the original generation, starting it, growing it, passing it off to the second generation, so that quality of everything is kept intact.
Well, and I think that generational component is very interesting. So because every company needs to be looking at, okay, who is my target market now? Yes, but who will my target market be in the future?
Right.
And the generations are just so different in terms of what they expect out of a business. And we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but these younger generations, the millennials and then even younger than them, I mean, they don't want a faceless organization. They want to know who you are, what you stand for. I mean, so Dania, who works here, when she talks about how she goes and like looks at every company's social media before she considers buying from them, I'm like, oh, that is just something like I don't even do. Like I know my mother, doesn't do it, because it's a different generation. So
Right.
I think it's like a future strategy for companies to be like, okay, if I want to start to engage these younger people now,
right,
then I need to meet them where they are.
exactly. One of the things that we're seeing too, of course, we're always marketing in the now, right? So we're looking for shoppers who are ready to buy now. But I try to get a lot of local businesses to think a little more long term, because right now we're sitting in sort of a pivotal position, right? Where certain businesses and certain brands are marketing to younger and younger consumers, right? Who might not be ready to buy, I think, even in the next like 3 years. But they're prepping them. They're getting familiar, right?
Yeah.
With that consumer.
Building that like brand awareness and brand loyalty. Yeah.
And, along the lines of with what Casey was saying, I think value is a big thing. And so value used to only mean value to the consumer. But now it also means like company values, right? What else are you participating in? Are you giving back? What is your community footprint too? I think matters a lot to younger consumers. And remember, they're going to grow up. So they're 25 today, they're going to be 30, 35 very soon. And they might be single today. They're going to be married with kids soon as well. So being able to connect with them personally and with both types of value propositions, I think is huge.
So that brings up a good question then. Let's say you already have a company spokesperson and they are,
I'm checking our
older,
time.
okay. But they are of the generation of kind of the current buyers. At what point should you start to maybe transition that, or do you ever transition that to a younger company spokesperson in that kind of passing off the guard to then reach those up and coming consumers?
I see it done in two ways. And so in traditional media, you do see it kind of be a slow passing of the guard, right? But traditional media doesn't have the control that digital media does, right? And so in digital media, you'll see that passing of the guard happen, but it'll happen faster. And then two, you'll see, the new guard or the new spokesperson sort of get brought in earlier, but to certain market segments.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah. And so that's how we do it online. And that's how we start prepping consumers for, a brand change.
Okay. Yeah. And that is one of the huge benefits of digital versus traditional media, is that ability to be like, okay, well, this is who we want to show to this segment of the population versus,
Digital media has the time to explain this transition, whereas traditional media does not.
Okay.
You have a 15-second spot, 30-second spot on TV, radio. It's a little more difficult. It's also so one-dimensional. Right? We can't answer questions. We can't push them to Messenger. We can't, do any of that on traditional that we can do on digital.
Okay.
So there's a two-way communication element to it as well.
Okay. Okay. So let's shift gears a little bit to, there are certain businesses that just by default are a personal brand. So like realtors, they're a personal brand, whether they kind of want to be or not. Same with, I would say doctors, I would say attorneys, like people that you have that one-on-one relationship with, personal trainers. So people who just kind of by default, like their business is one-on-one with who they are. Let's start to talk about like, how do you build that personal brand? So I mean, like on their social media, it is just them. So like, what should they be posting? And at what point do they move into ads? And like, how do they build that?
Sure. So, I think realtors are doing a phenomenal job. The ones that are embracing it are doing such a great job. We have a few here out locally. I see a lot of new, younger attorneys that are doing this really well too. They're utilizing social media their own channels to help educate about, either business law or contract or, family or whatever. Doctors are starting to do this as well. And I see that it's a generational thing, because when we walk into medical practices, the people who want to be on social media are the younger, newer doctors. The ones that have been around for a while, I don't like pointing fingers like that, but it's more of they're not as open to it. Of course, here in North Florida, we have a couple of leaders that were sort of ahead of the pack. One who is the Heekin Orthopedic. I think that he was ahead of the pack on a lot of that from a medical perspective. And, when you look at that and when you look at him, I don't think you think personal branding when it comes to the medical industry, but that's almost exactly what he did. He was very good. He had a great personal brand before he launched his own private practice, and now that's even grown. And so, I don't think this isn't just for stuff like home services or podcasting or, new agey type businesses. This is for established things like medical, legal, that we're seeing this a lot. And so the way that they start, is I would start like we do everything with digital, because digital media is the greatest testing platform that we have. And it's
where everybody is.
It's right.
Everybody's online somewhere.
Yeah. You get instant cost-effective results to see if what you think might work will actually work. And if it does work, then there's an ad platform everywhere that you can take to sort of turbocharge what your ideas are. And so that is a really great 1-2 punch for everyone who's thinking about starting marketing in this fashion. Okay.
All right. So you mentioned Heekin. Who else locally do you think is doing a really good job at this?
Well, it's hard to, Fair and Fair has kind of been the kings of it for a long time. So they always do a really great job. I think my wife does a great job. She's a personal trainer. We were sort of the first one. This was like 10 years ago. We were sort of the first ones to do a lot of blogging and share that helpful blogging content out on Facebook. And that's how she initially grew. And so that continues to be the backbone of her strategy today.
Yeah.
So, I think certain realtors, my cousin, Julia Fatahi, does a phenomenal job. Neil Vining does a great job too. So Neil, if you're listening, you've done really great job online and utilizing social media too.
Well, and I think I like that you said, like, kind of start with providing value and like education. And if you think about it, like, I think people can hear personal brand and be like, oh, that's all just like influence or social media. But really, it's more you're positioning yourself as an expert.
Right.
And you do that by sharing valuable content. And so people, especially in fields like realtor, medical, you want to go to somebody who it's very important to you that they are an expert. And like building a personal brand gives you that opportunity to showcase your expertise, as you are doing right now.
A really big point of this too, we've talked about differentiation and strategy and how to roll it out. But if you're a physical business, most of the time you're seeing less foot traffic. And that is because more people are spending more time researching you online. And I think this strategy sort of plays right into that.
Yeah.
Right. Car dealerships used to see an average of, I think, 6 visits before getting a sale. Now it's like 1.4.
Well, yeah, because now there's places like people are buying cars online without ever even testing them.
Right. And so, if you're local, when a big, corporate brand comes through like that, use the local element to your advantage, right?
Yeah.
But then you have to match sort of what that brand, don't sit back and go, oh, they have great content, they have great social media, they do videos. You can do all this too, right? Nothing is stopping you. The barrier to entry is so low. You just need to get started and have a little bit of a starting strategy and then refine that.
Yeah, and you have that local angle, which the other organization won't ever have. And I just really think that, I don't know I don't know about other cities as much. Well, all right, so I've lived here in Jacksonville. That's where I was born and raised. And then I lived in South Florida for about 10 years out of college.
Okay.
And I just, the local element here in Jacksonville is like such a big thing. It's not down there. It's too big. You know, Miami bleeds into Fort Lauderdale, bleeds into West Palm and Boca. And so it's just too big. Whereas, so I think this personal brand face of the company, like gives you that ability to be like constantly having that local message, which really resonates with local people in Jacksonville. And I think especially the younger generations.
100%. And so something that I've noticed in Jacksonville over the last 10 years is that we are getting a lot more corporate brands coming here. And, you know, they start to throw their weight around a little bit when they first come. You know, of course, it's part of their strategy, but they do that with their marketing and their ad buys and their value propositions. Local businesses need to look at that and use it to their advantage, right? So if they're broadcasting all about their value, great, you match it, right? And then not only that, but you have the intimate knowledge of the local neighborhood, the local people, what they're into, what they like. You have all of those years of relationships. Utilize that, but you need to broadcast it, right? And so that is a way that I think utilizing personal branding and having a face to your company can help wheel around some of those large corporate stores that have been coming here. And I don't see that changing.
Right.
North Florida has been growing. If you look at us like a population, I mean, I think Jacksonville is just bleeding into St. Augustine. It might be vice versa, but you know, with Nocatee now, that always raises an interesting point is, you know, it used to be two separate cities. Now we're kind of merging into one continuous region. Yeah. And people work everywhere. So they might live in Nocatee, work in St. Augustine, or work in downtown. Or, you know, people might, live in, Southside Jacksonville, but commute and work in St. Augustine. That's not uncommon today at all.
Right. And so you just said something interesting about, like, you know, you have the local knowledge of the local neighborhood. So just to kind of plug the agency for a second, like that's one of your benefits too, when it comes down to the targeting, is understanding the personalities and habits of the different neighborhoods within Jacksonville, whereas these big organizations coming in aren't going to know and understand, because we've got really interesting little pockets in Jacksonville, and they all operate a little different and have different personalities. And these big organizations might not know that coming in, whereas we do. And so the businesses do, and then like local marketers do. Right.
So if you're a local marketer here, you know, I think everyone kind of knows what I'm talking about, or what the point that Casey just made, where, you know, a corporate store probably has their advertising and marketing done somewhere else, not in North Florida. The agency that they use might be in Chicago, you know, New York, wherever. So especially for Jacksonville, there's a lot of nuances to marketing here. We have a lot of pockety, if that's a word, pockety type.
Pockety is one.
So we have a lot of pockety type neighborhoods that we utilize in targeting, in running digital ads. And I think that's a big advantage for the local business. Also using a local marketing company here. Again, it's not meant to be a plug, but in knowing where their customers actually live, that's a huge advantage.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, so is there anything we haven't covered on personal brands or company spokespeople?
I don't think so. We went deeper than I thought we would.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like this. If you guys have any other questions for us, feel free to put it in the comments, and we will reach out and answer any question that you might have. If it's about getting started, if you want to bounce an idea off us, that's no problem. We love talking about this 24/7, so don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you all for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate it. Tune in next Friday, 10 o'clock, Final Click Marketing Show. Thanks a lot. Bye.